Welcome to LexTalks Legal Topics Simplified, where we decode legal concepts for learners.
Mm-hmm.
Today we are diving deep into a concept
Okay.
that's fundamental to Indian legal studies property.
Yes.
You might think it's simple, a house, a car, your phone.
Right.
But legally, property is a world of fascinating nuances, especially in India.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
I would completely agree. The law sees property not just as things, but as bundles of rights that you have over them.
Okay, so it's more about what you can do with something than the thing itself.
Exactly. Ownership use the right to sell or even destroy. These rights are at the heart of property law.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes it even more intriguing is that the very definition of property is constantly evolving.
So how does Indian law define property then? Is there a simple answer?
Well, like many legal systems, Indian law grapples with pinning down a perfect definition. It's a dynamic concept shaped by history, social norms, and even economics.
Hmm.
For instance, we often think of property as something individual. But in some systems like Russia, with their term sobstvennost property, isn't just about the object, but also encompasses the economic relationships tied to it.
That's a really different perspective. It's almost like property isn't just about me and my stuff, but how that stuff fits into a bigger system.
Precisely. And when we look at the historical tapestry of property in India, we see how intertwined it is with social and economic structures.
Let's unravel that history then. Where do we even begin?
Property in India has a long and winding story. From ancient customs to the Mughal-era zamindari system, property laws have always mirrored the power dynamics of their time. Under the zamindari system, vast tracts of land were controlled by powerful landlords, the zamindars.
So it wasn't a case of individual farmers owning their land.
Not quite. The zamindars leased land to farmers and collected taxes, wielding significant power over rural communities. This system had roots in the Mughal era and persisted under British rule. However, when the British East India Company entered the scene, it added another layer of complexity. Their arrival sparked peasant uprisings, highlighting how deeply land ownership is connected to social justice.
That's a powerful reminder that property rights aren't just abstract legal concepts, but are deeply intertwined with people's lives and livelihoods.
Absolutely. This struggle for land rights led to significant changes after India gained independence. One of the most transformative moves was the Zamindari Abolition Act of 1956.
So did this act completely dismantle the zamindari system?
Yes, it was a landmark moment. The act aimed to redistribute land more equitably, empowering farmers and recognizing their rights. And even in recent times, we've seen the legal landscape of property rights evolve. The Supreme Court's ruling in the Vanita Sharma v. Rakesh Sharma case in 2020 reaffirmed a daughter's equal right to inherit family property.
It's fascinating how these legal decisions shape the very meaning of property, constantly redefining who has the right to what. It's not just about owning a piece of land, but about all the rights and implications that come with it.
You're absolutely right. And speaking of different types of property, it's not just about land.
Mhm.
The legal system recognizes a fascinating array of property categories, each with its own set of rules and nuances.
Okay, let's break down these categories. What are the main types of property we should know about?
Let's start with the most familiar one, real property. This is what most people picture when they hear the word property. It includes land and anything permanently attached to it, buildings, trees, even the resources beneath the surface. It's considered immovable, hence the term real property.
That makes sense. So what about all the things we own that aren't fixed in one place?
That falls under the category of personal property. It encompasses everything else that can be moved, your clothes, furniture, vehicles, even intangible things like intellectual property. It's a pretty broad category.
Wait, so even my ideas can be considered property?
We'll definitely delve into the fascinating world of intellectual property later on. But before that, let's touch upon another crucial distinction: private property versus public property. This distinction hinges on ownership. Parks, roads, public libraries, those all belong to the community and are considered public property. Your home, on the other hand, is private property, and of course the government owns various assets too.
So it's like a giant puzzle where every piece of property fits into a specific category based on its nature and ownership.
You could say that. And recognizing these distinctions is crucial because they determine your rights and responsibilities as an owner. You can't just build a house on public land, for instance.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's becoming clear how these different types of property create a framework for how we interact with the world around us.
Absolutely. And it gets even more interesting when we explore the realm of intangible property, the world of ideas and innovation.
Now that's a topic I'm really curious about.
Hmm?
What exactly falls under this category of intangible property?
Think about it this way. What are some of the most valuable assets in today's world?
Well, instantly recognizable brands like Coca-Cola or tech companies with groundbreaking inventions come to mind.
Exactly. That's the essence of intellectual property. It's all about protecting the creations of the mind, and it covers several key areas. First, you have inventions, which are protected by patents. This means someone can't simply copy your brilliant new gadget and start selling it as their own. Then there are creative works like books, music, and art, which are protected by copyright.
So copyright is what prevents people from plagiarizing a writer's work or stealing a musician's song?
Precisely. It grants creators exclusive rights over their work. And then there are trademarks, those unique brand names and logos that instantly identify a company or product. Think of the Nike swoosh or the Apple logo. Protecting these intangible assets is absolutely vital in today's competitive market.
It's fascinating how something you can't physically hold can be so incredibly valuable. It really highlights the power of ideas and innovation.
Absolutely. And this type of property isn't just for big corporations. Small businesses and individuals also have intellectual property that needs protection. Think of a family recipe passed down through generations, or a unique design for handcrafted jewelry.
It really expands your understanding of what property can be. It's not just about physical objects, but also about the creative output of the human mind.
And then there's something called commercial goodwill.
Commercial goodwill. I'm not familiar with that one.
It's essentially the reputation and customer loyalty that a business builds over time. Imagine a local bakery known for its delicious cakes, or a mechanic with a reputation for honest work. That loyal customer base is a valuable, intangible asset, especially if the business is ever sold.
So it's not just about what the business owns, but also the trust and reputation it has built within the community. That's powerful.
Precisely. And as you can see, property is so much more than just physical objects. It's a complex web of rights, history, social implications, and the power of ideas.
This deep dive has already shifted my perspective on property. It's clearly a much deeper and more nuanced concept than I initially thought.
It certainly is. And we've only just scratched the surface. In the next part, we'll explore the specific laws that govern property in India. Get ready to dive even deeper.
We've explored the diverse world of property from tangible land to intangible ideas. Now, I'm really curious to understand how these concepts actually play out in the legal arena here in India.
That's a great segue. Understanding property in India requires us to dive into the specific laws that govern it. It's like having all the pieces of a puzzle,
Right.
but needing the instructions to put it together.
Exactly. So what are the key legal frameworks we should be aware of?
Let's begin with a cornerstone of Indian property law, the Transfer of Property Act of 1882. This act delves into the intricacies of property transactions, buying, selling, gifting, leasing, and more. It provides a roadmap for these deals, ensuring clarity and fairness for everyone involved.
So if I were to sell my apartment or purchase land, this act would outline the legal steps involved.
Precisely. It lays out the procedures and safeguards to protect the rights of both buyers and sellers, aiming to prevent disputes and ensure a smooth transfer of ownership.
That makes perfect sense. What other legal acts are crucial in the Indian context?
Imagine a scenario where several family members inherit property together.
Okay.
Things could get complicated if they decide to divide it, right?
Absolutely. Sharing property amicably is one thing, but dividing it can lead to disputes.
That's where the Partition Act of 1893 comes into play. This act provides a structured legal mechanism for dividing jointly owned property among co-owners. It outlines a clear process for partition, promoting transparency and fairness, and minimizing potential conflicts among family members or business partners.
It's like having a legal referee to ensure everyone gets their fair share and the process is handled smoothly. We've talked about transferring property and dividing it. Now, what happens to property after someone passes away?
That's a crucial aspect addressed by the Indian Succession Act of 1925. This act determines how property is distributed after death, and the process can differ significantly based on whether a will exists.
So a will acts as a legal document that allows individuals to specify their wishes regarding their property after they're gone.
Exactly. A will provides clarity and helps avoid potential family disputes by outlining who inherits what. It ensures that the individual's wishes are respected and carried out. But what happens if someone passes away without a will?
That sounds like it could create a lot of uncertainty and potential for conflict.
You're right. Dying without a will is referred to as dying intestate. In such cases, the Indian Succession Act provides guidelines for property distribution according to specific religious laws, ensuring a structured process even in the absence of a will.
It's like a safety net to prevent chaos and ensure a fair distribution based on established principles. These three acts seem to be the pillars of property law in India. Are there any other significant legal aspects we should be aware of?
Property law is a vast and constantly evolving field. However, these three acts provide a solid foundation for understanding the core principles governing property in India.
It's incredible how much complexity lies beneath something we often take for granted in our daily lives.
That's the beauty of delving into the legal intricacies. It reveals the depth and nuances behind seemingly straightforward concepts.
I'm really glad we started with the historical context before exploring these acts. It provides a deeper understanding of how property rights have evolved over time, leading to the legal framework we have today.
Understanding the historical context is crucial for grasping the significance and rationale behind legal principles. It helps connect the dots and see the bigger picture.
We've covered a lot of ground today: the history of property in India, different types of property, and the key legal acts that govern it. What's next on our deep dive journey?
Well, since this deep dive focuses on property, meaning definition and types as recognized under Indian law, I think we've covered all the essential aspects.
Wow, it's amazing how much ground we've covered about property in India.
Yeah.
From its historical roots to the legal intricacies that govern it today. It seems like every time we dig a little deeper, we just find more and more complexity.
It really highlights how property is much more than just owning things.
Yeah.
It's a complex web of rights, relationships, and societal values.
I think many people approach legal topics with a sense of apprehension, feeling intimidated by the complexities. But when you break it down, it's really about understanding the fundamental principles that shape our interactions with the world around us.
Exactly, and that's what we aim to do here at LexTalks, make legal concepts accessible and engaging for everyone.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of property, what's a key takeaway you would like our listeners to ponder, something that sparks further curiosity about Indian legal studies?
That's a great question. Well, a thought-provoking one to consider is, as technology rapidly advances, what new forms of property might emerge? Think about digital assets, cryptocurrency, or even data rights.
Oh, wow.
What will ownership look like in the digital age? How will the law adapt to protect these new and evolving forms of value?
Those are fascinating questions.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that the legal landscape is constantly evolving, just like the world it seeks to regulate.
Precisely, and that's what makes studying law so dynamic and relevant. It's not just about understanding the past, but also about anticipating the future and shaping the legal frameworks that will govern our ever-changing world.
Well, this deep dive has provided a solid understanding of property in the Indian context. But as you said, it's just the beginning. There's always more to explore, more questions to ask, and more insights to uncover.
Absolutely.
We encourage everyone to keep those curious minds engaged, to keep asking questions, and to delve deeper into the fascinating world of law. Thanks for joining us on LexTalks, where we simplify legal concepts and empower you to navigate the legal landscape with confidence. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the captivating world of law.